Welcome back, everyone. I'm T,
And I'm Nessa.
and together we are the Casual Fangirls. We are so glad to be back here to discuss the third episode of Amazon's The Rings of Power. We are back with our friends Arondir, Galadriel, and Nori, even though she's really annoying to me, as their journeys continue to uncover all the mysteries lurking in the shadows of Middle-earth. Just like our previous pod, we will be breaking down the episode by major storylines rather than going in chronological order. But before we get into the episode, we feel like there's something important for us to discuss. Let's get serious for a hot second. We've seen the backlash on the internet about people of color being casted in the show, and as Black women, you know we have something to say about it. Nessa, tell them what you got to tell them.
Listen, we started this show not only because of our love for fantasy stories, but also to create a safe space for people of color to discuss these stories and more. No matter your devotion to a fandom, whether you're a casual fan or a diehard fan, you are welcome here, right? Now, there's always some racist backlash when it comes to casting people of color in fantasy stories, but this hit me hard because Lord of the Rings is one of the first fantasy stories that I actually really fell in love with. Like, I love the original trilogy and the world that Tolkien created. I learned the lines, I cried, I laughed, am deeply invested in the story, even though no one looked like me. You know, I still found things to relate to. So when characters such as Arondir, played by Ismael Cruz Cordova, I hope I said that right, and Disa, portrayed by Sophia Nomvet, popped up on my screen, I lost my mind, right? Because finally, in the story that I love, people look like me. I'm like, oh, snap, right? If you turn on your TV and you get upset by seeing Black, brown, Asian, indigenous faces on your screen, like, you got problems. Like, you got issues. There's something wrong with you, right? And the lovely, amazing Queen Viola Davis, I think she said it best when she was asked about the importance of representation. She said, you need to see a physical manifestation of your dream. There is something about seeing someone who looks like you that makes it more tangible. You can see it, you can touch it, and it gives you the possibility to look through your imagination and, you know what, redefine yourself. And that spoke volumes to me because that's what we want to see. I come to these stories to escape and to have a good time and to go on these adventures. And it's amazing when you see people who are not Caucasian. Like, you know what I'm saying? For me, it doesn't even need to be like a Black person. I'd be like, ooh, Asian dude, I see you in the corner. I see you, Asian elf. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it excites me and it adds more to the story because now not only are you watching it, but you feel like you're a part of it. These stories should be for everyone. It should be inclusive. It's sad that in 2022, we are still having these conversations. We are still seeing the ugliness come out of people. And I hate that. I hate that for the world. I hope it never deters anybody from watching these shows or those actors, actresses for going out for these parts. Please keep showing up on our screens. We love to see it. We are happy to see it. T, what do you have to say about the whole thing?
So I'm gonna take. First of all, thank you for sharing that, Nessa. I know that this story in particular is near and dear to your heart for a lot of different reasons. I think when you have individuals who are really into fantasy in general, there is a sense of like, why do we like fantasy stories? And it's because we can escape from the real world, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's a world without bounds. It's a world without all the awful atrocities that we see in our everyday life. And when those atrocities, especially things like racism and bigotry, are now forced into what are supposed to be these safe spaces, it's super triggering for everyone
Yeah.
involved, in my opinion. And it's just flat out not right. And I think just because of who I am, I need to get to some of the like logical like fallacies with some of the arguments around this.
Yeah.
So like we mentioned, there's plenty of issues with this even being an argument. Like, why are people of color being casted as actors in this story? And it's like, first and foremost, it's a fantasy world. There's literally no historical truths for the story to be anchored to. Everything about it is made up, every single thing. So that point is just flat out stupid. Let's just start there. Secondly, the other main argument that we hear is that Tolkien didn't write characters of color into the books. Now, to be fair, I am way more casual about how I approach this particular story. I have not read the books, but I am not 100% convinced that that is actually true. Show me the page where it says all the characters are white. Like, come on. Like, seriously, I don't really believe that that is the case. If it is, then, you know what? If it is, so what? There are plenty of other changes to what Tolkien wrote, and the masses are generally okay with those. So if casting an actor of color to play a fictional character you've never seen brought to life before is ruining the show for you, the deeper question is why, right? And we all know the answer to that question. The answer is because you don't want people of color to have access to what you think is your fantasy world. Tough shit, okay? This world... This fantasy world does not belong to you. It doesn't belong to you. It belongs to everyone who has the ability to access the story and all of its characters. And like Nessa said, if the fandom is made up, us fans, if we're made up of all shades, we deserve to see ourselves in these stories just as much as you do. So, like I said, tough shit. We're here to stay. Actors, please keep going out for these roles. Yes. We need you. Yes. We need younger children of color to be able to see themselves in these stories. We need them to be able to believe that they can also create these stories. Yes. So that we have more people who are inclusive of all the different identities that interact with these stories.
Absolutely. For sure. I also want to say, like, it's one thing to be upset with an actor who's been cast because of how they are portraying a certain character, right? Like, everybody can be mad at Gambon's, Dumbledore because they were like, wait a minute, that's not the character Dumbledore. And I get that, and I can understand that. But also, to be clear, Arondir and Disa are show creations. Right. They are not from the books. They are not from the lore. So, like... You know what I'm saying? Like, there is free reign for them to do what they want to do with these characters. But if you're going to be upset about something that matters. You know what I'm saying?
Just to piggyback off of that and take your example a step further, being angry about how Gambon portrayed Dumbledore, especially in the infamous, did you put your name in the Goblet of Fire, right? So that very specifically, people are angry because and I would argue the masses believe that actor didn't capture the essence of the character correctly. Now, if you contrast that with the play, Cursed Child, the play, and casting a black actress to play Hermione, where people lost their mind, that is the issue there, because there was nothing about how that character was portrayed on stage that didn't scream Hermione Granger. Yeah. She captured the essence of that character perfectly, even though we've never seen that character at that age, right? Yeah. And no one, when you see her on stage, you cannot deny that is Hermione Granger, the character on stage. People's issue was just the fact that she was black. Yeah. And that's just, I mean, full stop. It's racist. It's harmful to everyone involved. Yeah. And there's no need for it. There is no fantasy stories. As long as the essence of the character is as true to spirit, I would say, as it was originally written, if it was actually written, Arondir and Disa were not written, then what's the problem is basically what I'm getting at. So
exactly. All right. We can get off our soapbox now. But it's important to say, we are women of color. We have a platform now, and we want to use our voices to promote inclusivity. Into these worlds and into these stories. And I'm hoping to see more stories with Black characters and stuff. Unfortunately, I'm not a big reader. So I know those stories are out there, but I don't be reading. So I'll be missing out. And I'll be waiting for TV shows. But then, unfortunately, I'm on the white man's time waiting for these TV shows. So, but I think as a whole, we should support these artists more. We should support these writers more, and do whatever we can and whatever it takes to get these stories out there and bring them to life, and to keep diversifying things like House of Dragon and Lord of the Rings and everything. So with all that being said, T, why don't you kick us off with your words? Let's get into the episode. Why don't you kick us off with your words to describe the episode and your spoiler-free overall feelings about this episode?
Thank you for reminding me I was supposed to do it spoiler-free. Okay. Because that was my first word. I was going to be like, I found it exciting because of this. I thought it was exciting. We hear mention of characters that we've known from the previous, from the lore of the Lord of the Rings, super important characters from that storyline are introduced in the show. So that made it very, very, very exciting for me. I was like, oh snap, did they say the name I thought they just say? That was great. And then overall, I just think it's clearly getting spicy and starting to heat up. So we have, it's clearer to us, I think, in this episode where the rest of the episode, where the rest of the season is potentially going. I think we finally see pieces starting to settle in place so that they can get together and go off on whatever journey they need to go on for this season to get to the end. I will pause there because I'm afraid I'm going to say something spoiler, but I found it exciting. And it was, and I just think overall the series is starting to get a little spicy. What about you?
I felt the same way that you felt. And to also add to that, I feel like the story is starting to get more inviting. Like, I feel like it's sucking people in a little bit more because now we're getting deeper into the mysteries. We're revealing more. And we're getting a little bit more action, which made it more exciting for me. And so you can see that. So the way the story has started, which is interesting because usually in these kinds of stories, it's like we start together, we grow apart, the world gets bigger, and then we shrink back down and come together. But it feels like we started vast, and now it kind of feels like everybody might be coming into the same area, the same zone, or at least they're focusing on that same zone. They're like, okay, something's going on over here, right? So it feels like everyone's going to start coming together. And I also have heartwarming, mostly because of the Harfoots. I think it's so important that they did put the Harfoots in the show, because they are very much so a family, clannish type of beings. And you can see the love and how they try to take care of each other. And there are moments through the episode where they are talking about their ancestors and those who have passed and those who have been left behind. And I'm just like, damn, y'all got me. God. So, but yeah, the season is definitely getting spicy. It's definitely heating up. I'm with you on all fronts on that. All right. So
Nice.
those are our spoiler-free feelings. But we got to get the spoiler warning going. See?
So yeah, let's do the spoiler warning. If you are following our run of covering Rings of Power, Lord of the Rings, or any of the other shows that we're covering right now, you know the deal at this point. We are going to talk about everything, any and everything from the actual episode, everything from the lore that backs up, where the story comes from. So the Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit movies and books are possibly up for discussion. When you've read the books a very long time ago, it's kind of hard to remember what is an actual book thing versus a movie or show thing. We'll try our best to distinguish between the two, but we're casual. We'll figure it out. So it's a free world. So you can definitely stay if you haven't watched the episode. It's completely up to you. But if you don't want any plot points ruined for you, if you don't want to hear any speculation about what's going to happen next or why the characters are doing what they're doing, go watch the episode and then come back and join us for our discussion.
All right, everyone. So let's get into the episode entitled Adar. So we're going to start with Arondir in the Southlands. We return to find my boo. Arondir has been kidnapped by orcs and is being forced into physical labor along with his fellow elven soldiers and men who have been taken captive. And I was really upset because I was like, damn, we got a black elf and this dude is already in slavery. And I was just like, come on, y'all. But they are being forced to create underground tunnels as the orcs search for some sort of weapon for their leader, Adar. Arondir is confused why the orcs would refer to Sauron by an elvish name. And Revion, the Watch Warden, explains that Sauron went by many names. And in elvish, Adar means father. So who knows? This might tie into certain things. Keep an eye out, keep an ear out. You know what I'm saying? Pay attention, y'all. So Revion comes up with an escape plan. And basically their plan is to make a run for it when the sun is strongest in the sky, because orcs ain't messing with the sun. They're basically like vampires or something. But of course, nothing goes according to plan. The elves and men revolt against the orcs and try to break free. The orcs send out a warg, which looks like a feral, evil, wolf, dog-like creature type thing. And Revion makes it out of the trench, but is shot down by arrows just as Arondir starts to follow him. The orcs pull Arondir back into the trench, baby, and they decide to hand him over to Adar, whose blurry form makes his way through the tunnel. Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun,
right?
Dun.
Indeed. So my first thought was, could the weapon that they're looking for be the sword, the blade that Theo finds in the bar?
That makes
that
a
cross
lot
your
of
mind?
sense. Yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense. I'm wondering what the lore is possibly behind the sword and the blade in general. Like, why do they need that particular sword, or why it's there in the Southlands in general. I'm also wondering how the orc. I'm also wondering, like, if that is why the orc was in the floorboards of Theo's house. Because he literally just like missed the wrong house. If he just went to a different house, he would have caught it, right? He would have found it.
Yeah.
So that feels right on the money to me. That's what they're looking for. But
Yeah.
why is the question?
That is the question. Because if you guys remember from the previous episode, when Theo bleeds, like the blade sucks out his blood and like takes it in, and so clearly this thing is very evil. And but we, I'm not sure if this is in the lore of the Lord of the Rings or if it's ever been mentioned before. My knowledge does not run that deep, so I'm not sure what the importance of this particular sword is, and what's going on with it. But I think that's our best guess. And within the scenes of Arondir and this whole slave camp and everything, we get a fight scene, guys. We got some action. We got some excitement. I'm curious about your thoughts of the fight scene.
Yo, Arondir got busy. So
yes!
he got busy, and honestly, he almost feels like the most superior fighter that was down there. He just seems super capable, super on his toes, super sharp, just like real quick. And I think I was a little shocked at how much quicker he was than the other elves, because honestly, you like watching Legolas get busy in previous films, you would think having 3 elves there, they make light work of that situation. So I thought that was a little interesting that more of the elves weren't getting busy as much as Arondir was. But I found it very compelling to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that was also like one of my first thoughts too, was like, dang, the orcs really just captured all these elven soldiers like that. And it was surprising to me. But like you said, man, Arondir put on for his people. He put the whole team on his back and was out here whooping ass, taking names, and I loved it. He took on the warg by himself. He was out here fighting for his life. And then when Revion makes it out, I'm just like, oh yay! But then that pause, man, I was like, I knew it. That pause meant that it wasn't gonna go down like we hope it would. And then he turns around. Yeah.
No, but Arondir, it kind of needed to happen because Arondir knows now that you can't escape that way.
Yeah, exactly. And he turned around had them 2 arrows in them. I was like, ooh. And like, yo, Andir, that boy, I felt his feelings. Like the way he was looking, the despair on his face, I was just like, damn, damn. And you know what? Screw it, man. Like Lord of the Rings, they know how to do some deaths. Like they know how to do some deaths. So when that second arrow hit, it hit me. Like it hit my heart. Like I don't know, something about the sound effects too. Like whoever's on sound, y'all did the damn thing. Because when that arrow came and it hit him, I said, "Ooh, no, what?" And I got sad. It gave me like Boromir flashbacks, and I was just like,
Yeah, you were partial to that scene, weren't you? I didn't
I
care, but you were.
I
It
very
did
much
something to you.
so. That scene, Boromir, I shed a tear for my homie Boromir. I definitely did, and but and I got some of those similar feelings, but I wasn't as attached to Watch Wardens. I was just like, damn, this is just sad, but
Mm,
but it was a great scene. The whole thing with the chains and
yeah,
beautiful. It was beautiful. It was beautiful.
it was great.
Um, and then at the end, we see this blurry figure that is supposed to be Adar,
Hmm.
aka Sauron. But do you think this is actually Sauron? Do you think we're really meeting him? Or could this be a pump fake?
You know, I don't know. I
Mm-hmm.
think at I think for it to be Sauron this early in the season would be a choice that I would find really interesting. And not a bad choice because remember, if you think about the Harry Potter films, sorry, I'm always going to bring it back there.
Do it.
What the shockingness of that storyline is that Voldemort, spoiler, Voldemort is back book 4, not book 7, which is you would think they would, the author would wait all the way to the end to bring the big bad back. But that was super effective, right?
Mm-hmm.
So bringing Sauron this early, I don't think is going to be a bad thing if it is him. I'm not entirely convinced. I think two things could be true. I think Sauron is an elf. I think that would make a lot of sense in my brain. That
Mm-hmm.
Sauron is an elf. He lives forever. He's super, 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 super powerful. I, at least, in my casual interactions with the storyline, no one's ever told me what Sauron actually is, like what species he belongs to, what race he belongs to.
Yeah.
So him being an elf would make sense.
Yeah.
Adar being the elfin name for Sauron makes sense, but that doesn't mean that this individual is actually Sauron. He could have just taken on the name, trying to portray being Sauron or Sauron's like most loyal, whatever.
Yeah.
So I say a lot to say, could it be Sauron? Sure. I'm not convinced that it is. I think what
Yeah.
is also likely is that it's like some other elf, maybe, or person who's just Sauron's most loyal person and is just adapting the name for themselves right now. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm not fully convinced that it's Sauron either. Um, but certain things I'll keep to myself. But because I want to watch you watch this. But I'm not fully convinced that it's Sauron, but I would love it to be. I would love it. I think it would be very clever and very smart if he took the form of an elf and stuff, or is an elf and was kind of like, just like, let me lay low. Nobody knows it's me moving, moving in
Mm-hmm.
silence and stuff. So it would be a compelling story choice, I think. But I'm not, I'm kind of with you. I'm kind of thinking like, I wouldn't be surprised if it was a loyal follower, one of his lieutenants or something. And maybe he's the one who's been kind of like, like bringing it back to Harry Potter, but like Voldemort had very loyal servants that were working behind the scenes to bring him back to life, to bring him back to his
Mm-hmm.
more his corporal form, right? So it could be a figure like that, and maybe that's why the orcs look at him as like father or something. Um, I'm interested. It very much so looks like an elf, but even though the figure is blurry, it very much so looks like the elf. The eyes, the ears look pointy, the
Mm.
hair, just the body stature. So I'm excited. I'm excited to see what it brings. But
Let me ask you a follow-up question.
yes,
If it is an elf, do you think it's an elf of importance that we've heard about already in the storyline somewhere?
no,
Okay.
I don't think so. I think it'll be somebody that we know nothing of as of
Hmm.
yet. Like I don't think it's going. Yeah, I don't think it's going to be anyone that we've met already.
Okay.
Is my feeling.
Okay.
What were you thinking?
Oh,
You're
I
like,
was just, oh, I don't know.
I'm just here for the ride.
I'm here for the ride. I'm here for the speculation. I don't know enough about, you know what it is about this story that really throws me off is timelines. How long people live, who was born before whom,
Yeah.
like those kind of things. And if I had a better understanding of that, I could probably make an educated guess because we've heard, like, there are names of elves that we've heard, but we haven't seen on screen, like Elros. What if it's Elros? I don't even know if that's a possibility because I don't really understand the timelines and like if we confirm that he's dead, was he born before or after, Morgoth originally came and battled the elves and all that. So I'm just not sure.
So yeah, I mean, Elros being Adar, that would be a wild twist. It'd be crazy. I don't think that's the case,
Maybe not.
but
I don't know.
maybe, but it would be interesting. It would be an interesting storytelling choice. I'll put it that way. All right, let's move on. We are back with our people, Galadriel and Halbrand. So Galadriel wakes up on a ship with Halbrand heading to Numenor. Elendil is the captain, and we later learn that he is dun 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 Isildur's father. Our drifters are brought before Queen Regent Muriel and Farazon and the Farazon. Galadriel and the Queen basically threaten each other because Galadriel is like, "Hey, y'all are gonna give me a ship to go back to Middle Earth, one way or another. Like, we can do this the easy way, or we could do this the hard way. The choice is yours." And the Queen is like, "Oh yeah, give it your best shot. Like, let's see if you make it anywhere. Do do what you gotta do." Right? So Halbrand is like, hold on, ladies, right? Let's calm down. And he steps in and basically talks his way into getting a 3-day all expense paid vacay on Numenor so the queen can ponder over Galadriel's request. But it's clear that Halbrand is looking for a fresh start. And why not here? He's like, this is nice. Y'all ain't got roaches or nothing. I like this right here. Right? So before we go any further, though, I'll give you a little bit of history on Numenor. And most of this information is in the show, is given through exposition through Galadriel as they're approaching Numenor. So it is an island kingdom and the westernmost of all mortal realms. So this is the last place that you will find men to the west. Going beyond that, you're going to run into Valinor and other types of realms and stuff. It is also referred to as the land of the star because it's shaped like a star. And I believe also it was like a certain star led them there or something. Mm. These men stood with elves to fight Morgoth, which is very important because they did this. The Valar granted them the island and shared gifts and knowledge with them. And this is part of the reason why they're referred to as like the kings of men, because they are way more advanced than like those from the Southlands and that kind of stuff. That's why when Halbrand comes up, he's like, wait, what kind of men built this place? And Galadriel's like, not men like you. And so you can see there's already a difference there. The elves used to come freely, but at a certain point, the ports were closed to them and their ships were rejected. We still don't know the reason why, at least not through the show as of yet. It's currently being ruled by Queen Regent Muriel, and the Numenorians have a lifespan of about 200 to 300 years. But if you are a descendant of the royal house, aka a descendant of Elros, you can have about 300 plus years. So they have an extended lifespan. That's why we see certain characters who are from this place currently, and then they end up in stories like 300 years later, and you're like, whoa, wait a minute, I thought they were a man though. So that's where some of these people come from. Also, just to throw it in there, Aragorn is a descendant of these people. Mm-hmm. We'll get into that a little bit more. We'll come to that. What were your thoughts as we sailed up to Numenor?
I thought it looked fantastic. And
Oh,
honestly, like, I keep forgetting how much money they spent on this first season. $1 billion.
well, the $1 billion was for 5 seasons.
Oh, was it for all five?
Yeah, it was to procure it for 5 seasons. So I don't know exactly how much money was spent
But I
on
thought
this season itself.
so they greenlit the show and automatically gave them 5 seasons? That's
Yes,
wild.
ma'am.
I didn't realize that that's what happened. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
$1 billion for 5 seasons sounds better than $1 billion for one, but still, them
Yeah,
greenlighting 5 seasons before the first episode airs is wild.
Amazon
Anyways,
is all in.
anyways, it looked fantastic. It looked beautiful.
Yeah.
It looked very majestic. I too was just like, what kind of men are up there doing their own like Mount Rushmore of statues and stuff? I was like, what is happening here? But I thought it looked great, and I instantly was just like, if I lived in that island, I would never go up to the top. It just looked like it was a lot of walking involved. And I just no thanks.
It was a lot of walking. It reminded me of like Venice, Italy, like all the
Mm.
waterways and stuff like that.
Mhm.
But it looks so beautiful. I was just like, I get why y'all want to live here. Like, and you can see the elven like influence and stuff in
The
terms of the way
tree.
it looks.
I
Yes.
did notice the tree that it looks almost identical to the tree that we see in Gondor in the Lord of the
Mm-hmm.
Rings trilogy, and I was like, I wonder if that's the same tree. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so I saw that, and I was like, that's
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. It was definitely a great look. They definitely dropped some bank on that, and it was well worth it. Any feelings towards Queen Muriel?
I thought she came in a little hot. Um, I was just like, damn, can she like be here for a minute before you start jumping down her throat? Like, what is this like animosity against the elves? Is really where I was like, I don't understand where this is coming from. And it looks like they man washed their history books because Galadriel was like, we gave this to y'all. She was like, nobody gave us anything. And I'm like, somebody lying, and I don't think it's Galadriel.
Well,
So do
okay,
you
so
just not know your history, or like what's happening here?
I took that as like Galadriel was trying to come in on
Gun
her on her
guns a
elfish
blazing.
guns are blazing on her
Yeah.
elvish pedestal and be like, "We gave you this place," and Muriel was like, "Hold on, we paid in blood. Like we fought for y'all, we died for y'all, we earned this spot." That's the way I read it.
That's a great point.
That's the way.
But they weren't building those big ass statues by themselves. So
I mean, but then
there's a truth somewhere in the middle here, is what I'll say.
I don't know. I think Galadriel was doing the most. Queen
She
Muriel
was.
was like,
She was.
"You in my land, like okay, let's not act like this right now." But they were both ready to go. But yeah, like you said, there's obviously some animosity there. We don't understand where things exactly went wrong between the elves and these men. So I'm curious to find out more about that and more about the city, the island itself and everything.
Yeah.
All right. So then next we meet Isildur as a cadet on a ship working to become a part of Numenor's Sea Guard. It's evident that he's talented. He saves a fellow cadet and gets the ship back on track after it's like, I don't know, wavering at sea and all that stuff. So, but even with all this talent, my man's wants to defer trying out for the Sea Guard. Basically, he tells his dad, like, I'm trying to take a gap year, like maybe backpack through Europe, find myself, and then I'll see if this is for me. And Elendil's like, no, like, I did all this work to get you this tryout. Like, you need to get on this ship when it's leaving. We also meet his sister Ariane, who gets into the Builders Guild as an apprentice. So she got her little Hogwarts letter,
Mm-hmm.
She got into Yale. So we're meeting this family, and Isildur should sound familiar to y'all if y'all have watched Lord of the Rings, right? If you've seen the trilogy, you'll recognize Isildur as the founder and ruler of Gondor. He is the man who cuts the ring off of Sauron's hand. Instead of destroying the ring, he takes it for himself. He's killed by orcs, and then the ring is lost for thousands of years until Smeagol picks it up. Isildur is the descendant of Elros, uh, and we'll have more on him a little bit later. And he's the ancestor of Aragorn. So if you guys were wondering why Aragorn was living for centuries, by the time we meet him in Lord of the Rings, this is why he is descendants of these people. So he has an extended lifespan. So hopefully that gave more clarity to more like casual viewers. Like, did this background information help you out at all? Did it make connections for you?
I mean, when minute 16 in, and you hear someone off to the side call him Isildur, you're like, wait, I'm casual with this story, and even I stopped and paused it and called my friend and was just like, who I knew already saw the episode, and I was like, did they just say what I think they said? And he was like, yep.
But also, who's the voice whispering on the wind?
Oh, right. It excited me as someone who's a casual fan, because I know I recognized that name and I knew who that character was. I even went back yesterday and watched the first 3-4 minutes of the Fellowship movie, because that's when they give all the backstory about Isildur and like what happened there and stuff like that. So I thought that was interesting, and that got me super excited. I was like, oh, like we are really getting characters that we've already heard about and getting their backstories. It feels like this is, I mean, yes, with Elrond and Galadriel, same thing, but this feels almost like way more consequential to the overarching storyline to me. And so it makes me more vested in the show.
Ooh, love that. Yes, sucking you in.
Yeah,
love
basically.
So Halbrand sets his sight on working with the blacksmith, but he's denied because he lacks a guild crest. You need admissions, and he ain't got it. After being harassed by some locals, he wins them over by buying drinks and steals one of the men's guild crests. Realizing that they've been robbed, the men corner Halbrand to whoop his ass, but it turns out he's a pretty good fighter. And when I say pretty good, y'all, I mean he beat up 4 guys at once and broke one of their arms. And then he's arrested by soldiers. So we are witnessing the slow rollout of who Halbrand really is. He's clearly not just this random guy from the Southlands, right? What did you think of his ability to like sweet talk people and his little sticky fingers and all that stuff? Did it get you more invested in the character?
What actually got me more invested in the character was seeing the moments where you can tell he's trying to talk himself down from reacting rashly. It was that piece of it that I found like, oh, he's checking himself in real time. And we are watching him be like, wait, I really want to kill these people, but what are my bigger goals right now? And that you see it so starkly when he just like, let me do the first couple of rounds or whatever. There's a means to an end here. And I think that it shows that he's a strategic thinker, but also an on-the-fly thinker. And I'm sure that is going to come in handy at some point in the near future.
Oh, yes, absolutely. 100%. It just made me go like, oh, okay, who is this guy? Like, what's your real story here? Like, what's happening? I did have thoughts of like, are you Sauron? For a couple of minutes. Like, I didn't buy too much into it, but it definitely passed through my brain. Like, are you? And so, yeah, so there's clearly a lot more to him than we first suspected.
The other thing I'll say really quickly is that his fighting was very practical. I felt, I don't know, when I was watching him beat up the guards, I was kind of just like, he's not even moving too quickly. He's moving very deliberately. There's something about the way he's fighting that just feels more real than what I've seen in these fantasy stories in a long time.
Interesting. I like that take. Okay, cool. All right, so now we're back with Queen Muriel, and she asks Elendil the meaning of his name, which we find out is Elfriend. She questions his loyalty to Numenor, which he insists will not waver with Galadriel's arrival. He explains that the sea brought her to him, and he felt that the right thing to do was to bring her ashore. The queen commands Elendil to guard Galadriel personally. Elendil catches Galadriel trying to escape and speaks Elvish to her. It's just also like another dun-dun-dun moment, because it's like, you speak Elvish? Okay. But he explains to us that many from where he's from still speak Elvish. And he takes her to their Hall of Lore, which is basically like a huge library assembled by Elros, aka Elrond's twin brother. And they're gonna end up going through the restricted section to get some things, right? um, so, but so a little bit on Elros. He was the first king of Numenor. He was half elvish and half man. And when they say that, honestly, it doesn't always literally mean half elvish, but I think in this case it was. But he's got mixed blood, basically. But he chose to live life among the men, where Elrond chose to live among the elves. And so he is the one who assembled this library. The previous king of Numenor made sure that this Hall of Lore is still standing, and basically we can assume that there's tons of scrolls in there, so we can assume that there's many encounters of histories and all types of things in there, all types of knowledge. Maybe there's some knowledge from the Valar in there, some elven knowledge. Who knows what we might find in there? But in particular, Galadriel and Elendil learned that the sigil is in fact a map of the Southlands to record the location of a tower. There should be bells ringing in y'all heads if y'all have seen Lord of the Rings. They uncover a plan that is set in motion, that's to be set in motion in the event of Morgoth's death. A plan for his successor to create a realm where evil can thrive, not just endure, but thrive. Did this set off the rings, the bells in your brain?
It did, because it's, we are seeing the conception of Mordor, basically.
Yes, we are.
And also it like never, even when I watched the first 3 movies a couple of weeks ago in preparation of the show, it was always so wild to me that Mordor was so close to the realm of men. It was like across the street from Gondor.
Yeah.
And I was always like, I don't understand why that was the way it was. Like, wouldn't the men leave, or like why? It just felt really weird. This, I think this storyline is going to help me understand it a lot more. And it would make sense that Mordor used to be all realm of men.
Yeah.
And that's why it's that proximity. So I found that very exciting.
I definitely love that twist that, like, we're sitting here like, what is this evil symbol? Oh, it's a map. Oh. So I thought that was cool. And I am excited now, actually, to see the conception of Mordor, to see them build it, to see how did we get here? Because, like, yeah, you're right. It's just like Gondor is right there. We're just in the land of men. Like, how did this come to be? So I'm loving that we're going to get that story as well, amongst everything else that we're getting. Galadriel also discovered Halbrand's true identity. He is the lost king that united men of the Southlands who fought against Morgoth. So if you guys remember, the Southlands had this bad rep, especially with the elves, because a lot of them stood with Morgoth, but Halbrand actually fought against him. She urges him to come to Middle-earth to fight as he's locked in the dungeon because, his previous bar brawl. And we cut to a scene in which Queen Muriel expresses her fear of Galadriel's arrival. She's sitting there and she's like, Father, the day we fear has come. The elf is here. And I'm just like, why is she so worried? Why is she so upset? Did you have any speculation, any thoughts on why this could be?
Prophecy, it's the first thing I thought about. Someone had a prophecy that when an elf comes, it's going to mean the destruction of Numenor, like whatever it is, which is why they started turning elves away. That felt like the most logical thing. Fantasy stories are going to fantasy, right? So someone had a fantasy that an elf is going to show up and it's going to be the destruction of Numenor. And so that's why they started turning everyone away. And now that this one got through, everyone is shook. Right. Yeah. That makes sense to me. So, I'm almost a little sad that was so clear to me without it actually. I guess that so easily. I'd be shocked if it wasn't that, honestly, because it feels like the perfect setup for that. Yeah. Did you think something similar?
Yeah, absolutely. I thought that exact same thing. I was just like, oh, someone had a dream or something like that. There's some sort of prophecy that it's going to bring about the destruction of Numenor. I'm very sure that that's what it is. So I completely 100% agree with you.
I want to say two other things really quickly. I
Yes.
think it's interesting. I wonder when this prophecy had taken place because I found it interesting that they don't want elves there. They don't like elves. They have all this animosity towards elves, but they're still teaching elvish. They're still holding on to all of these elvish like remnants and like artifacts and scrolls and like all these things. If you really don't like a race, why are you still holding on to these remnants of that race? So there's a dynamic there that I think we're gonna get fleshed out a little bit more. But I just found that really, really interesting. What do you mean y'all hate elvish people or just whatever? But there are people who speak it. That didn't make sense to me.
Yeah. I took it more as there may be certain groups that still want to hang on to that ancestry, that still want to hang on to those old practices, but the ruling monarchy at the moment is just like, no. So maybe it's something like, damn, I don't want to bring in House of the Dragon too much, but maybe it's something like someone within their line, the current line of the ruling monarchy, had this prophecy, had this dream, had this something, and maybe it's being passed down through them. So they're the ones who have the biggest hatred, but they're ruling, so they can make these laws, they can turn away people.
Without giving the backstory.
Right, exactly. But there are maybe still people in like the countryside and whatever who are like, nah, like we still want to hold on to this. Like they gave us so much. Why would we just let this go? And they said even like we mentioned before, the previous king did not want to tear down the Hall of Lord. He wanted to keep that. So clearly there's still people within this world who feel a connection to the elves, and there are others. And I hope we get more information next episode or something about what exactly is going on and what's the history there and what's been going on. But I think that's funny that we both drew the same conclusion. It was like, oh, prophecy.
Easy. Done. The other thing I wanted to clarify was like you mentioned, and this is you may not have the answer to this. I don't want to put you on the spot. That Halbrand, I took that Halbrand wasn't a king that fought against Morgoth. He's a human, and Morgoth in that fight was like centuries, if not eons ago, right? I took that he was just a descendant of it, like a descendant of things.
Well, because she says like, okay, yeah, you're right. Because she basically said the person who bared that mark united the Southlands, the men of the Southlands.
Right. So it to me, I took it as
I guess he's a descendant,
right, of the person who did that.
So it might be like almost like a Return of the King Aragorn-esque thing where it's like
that's exactly what I thought it was.
Doesn't want to rule, ran away.
I don't want to.
Yeah, I don't want to rule. I don't want to be the one. Yes, thank you for correcting me on that. Absolutely, yes, he was definitely not the one fighting against one, unless there's something else we don't know about him. But I don't get that feel.
No.
All right. Yeah. Any other last thoughts about our time with Numenor?
Just happy to hear about this prophecy next episode. That's all.
Absolutely. We're gonna be like, we called it. All right. So we are moving on to Nori, Poppy, and the Harfoots, right? The Harfoots are preparing for their migration as Nori's parents worry about being left behind because of her father's injury. Meanwhile, Nori steals a page from Sadok's book with a picture of the constellations shown to her by the stranger. Sadok takes a moment to remember those who have been lost in previous migrations. And during this scene, we learn that Poppy has pretty much lost her entire family. Because if you're looking in the crowd, like everybody's kind of clustered together in their family, and she's sitting by herself, and Sadok was reading off names. Like it was a long list of names, and at the end he says that they were lost in a landslide. And boy, Poppy's face, I wanted to shed a tear. I don't know what it is about these damn movies, but like, and these shows, but like they be hitting me emotionally. I was just like, man, she lost her whole family.
I didn't catch that.
No,
I
oh
didn't catch.
man,
So here's the thing. I didn't catch. I caught her reaction to it. I just thought she was just like sad for everyone that they lost. I didn't. It didn't occur to me until the last scene with them, which we may get to when they're on the caravan, and I
yeah,
see her carrying her like cart by herself. I was like,
yeah,
that's when it hit me. I was like, wait, she's completely by herself. That sounds. And I just didn't think about it beyond that. But now that you say it, that makes a lot of sense. That her reaction during that scene was because that was her whole family.
yeah. Because like first he said like a couple of names. I was like, okay. I was like, wait a minute, and he kept going. I was like, these are like 5, 6 names. I was like, dang.
Right, and it's because I haven't been keeping up. Like I don't know Poppy's last name.
Yeah, probably.
So yeah, that's why I didn't catch it.
Yeah, yeah. If you forget people's names, it's gonna it definitely would go over your head because he also mentions Daffodil Burrows, right? And Sadok's last name is Burrows. So clearly, this is
how am I supposed to know that's his last name? How am I supposed to know that? Like, and then here's the thing. Like, even, I watch these shows. I watch everything with subtitles on. Like, I might, like, can they put Sadak, whatever his last name is, so, like, I can see it?
No, they just gave you the first name. That's all you need at this point.
Jeez.
But, yeah, so it's unclear who this person was to him. It could have been a daughter. It could have been a wife. We don't know. A sister, maybe. Who knows? But all in all, right, this is basically to show us that although they are lighthearted people, although they have fun, although they're, there's loss that comes with their lifestyle, just natural loss that happens, landslides. He says one guy was stung by bees. He was like, he's an idiot. I was like, okay, cool.
Idiot.
I was like, damn. But yeah, sickness, illness, all those things, because they are, migrating kind of people, they lose people. But it also gave us insight to their traditions and their just how they face their loss and how they deal with it, and how they commemorate people. And I thought it was a beautiful scene to me. I loved everything about it.
It was a very pretty scene. I think it gave us great insight into why they're so anxious, their anxiety that like percolates through how they live their life. Especially now that I understand that Poppy lost her entire family. The fact that she's still supporting Nori through her shenanigans it like elevates her level, like the friendship that she's providing Nori at this point. Because if she gets kicked out of the clan, she has nothing. Yeah. But she's still risking it all to help Nori. So that, just sitting here understanding, I just learned in real time, guys, that Poppy lost her entire family. I'm just like, oh, wait, and she's still risking her stuff for Nori? I wouldn't do it.
Does that make Nori the villain? Is she the drama?
I don't like Nori. Nori is the drama, okay?
Because it's like, your best friend don't got nobody else, but you're going to make her, like, keep this secret for you and, like, be looking after this stranger. It's like, damn, like, why?
It's like it's clear that Poppy identifies her as being close, like family. Yeah. So she's supporting the family she has left, which is Nori, even going above and beyond to try to distract Sadak as Nori is like trying to feel for the paper and everything. Just that whole shenanigan. It's Nori's the drama.
She's after like finding out everything about Poppy, I was like, yeah, Nori, you're not a good friend. I don't like this anymore. This is not for fun. So the stranger takes a look at the map, and is seen by the Harfoots after he accidentally sets it on fire, and like has this like basically this whole comedic thing where he like falls into these, I don't know, drapes or whatever, and then pops up and looks like a monster, and everybody's like, ah, right, screaming for their lives and stuff. And basically snitches on your girl by saying her name. He's like, Nori? And everybody's like, hold on. This your friend? You brought him to the party? Like, what's going on?
Literally, whose man's is this?
Whose
Oh,
man?
Nori?
Yeah, exactly. And so Nori explains the entire story to everyone, and Sadak is troubled by all of this. He was like, "This is not right. We should not be doing this. You are playing with fire. This is too much." Right? And even someone in the background is like, "She gotta go," right? Kind of thing. and, and Sadak is like, hold on, simmer down. Like, calm your tits. Um, she's young. We're not gonna decaravan her, which basically is like banishing her, right? Sending her into exile. So he decides against that, but says instead that your family is going to have to travel in the back of the caravan, which basically leaves them open to being left behind, leaves them open to predators, wolves, all types of things. So it's still a punishment. You're almost, and with the fact that Nori's father's foot is broken, it's like you're almost condemning them to being left behind or to death even, right? Which is a little grim, a little dark, but hey, yo, Nori made her bed, and now they all have, the unfortunate thing is Nori made the bed, but they all have to lie in it now.
Mm-hmm.
And we even see, like, as they're on their journey, like you mentioned before, right? Poppy, she's traveling by herself, but she's traveling at the back with them.
Mm-hmm.
So it seems to be by choice, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So they're struggling to keep up on the journey, and then the stranger pops up and is like, "Friends? Yeah? I got you. I could pull this thing. You could even get in it. I'll pull it." Right? And the family decided as a whole that they'll let the stranger help them.
I mean, it's the least he could do. He broke the father's foot, so.
He broke the father's foot. He almost set the camp on fire.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he did quite a few things. During these scenes, we also see Nori's mom get upset with her. And it was very, as much as I don't like Nori, it was very disheartening and very sad to see Nori's mom be like, "You're not special. What do you think you're doing?" Like, and to me, it just gave me more insight of why the hobbits are the way they are. Like, this is where they started from, and, you know, this is how they kind of evolved to where it's like, we don't do adventures. We're nothing special. We just want to mind our business and stay in our little place. But it was just so sad. Like, I don't know if you felt any type of way when that happened.
You know, I felt like a lot of parents say that to their kids, so I didn't really feel, no one's ever said it to me because I'm special, but
right.
But
my mom said I'm pretty.
Listen, I thought we pretty all the time. You might not be special, but I am. But I do think that is it bad parenting? Probably. Is it coming from the right place though? I think so. Right? Like I think there is an air of like, you need to understand how the world works, and the world is not going to bend just because you think that you are special. Even if you are, that's just not how the world works. And I think that trying to instill that lesson into your child is probably important, but the way she went about it probably just wasn't the best way. So
yeah, I didn't love it.
The other thing too, you mentioned about like the Harfoots being the ancestors of the hobbits. I have a sneaking suspicion that by the end of this series, we'll see them settle in the Shire. Like they're gonna keep going. They're gonna keep going as far away as they can from all the fighting and all the drama, and they're gonna settle in the Shire. And I think we're going to see that.
Oh yeah, I definitely agree, 100%. I think that's where we're gonna end with them when it comes to the series. Any new thoughts about who the stranger is? Any confirmed thoughts for you? Because we went through a couple of thoughts of who it might be in our previous episode.
We did, and just to recap and refresh the audience of what we said, we went everywhere from Sauron to Gandalf to Saruman to a different wizard we don't know about. I think you and I both are pretty certain it's probably going to be a wizard of some sort.
Yeah.
just because he came in from the sky, right? Like,
Yeah.
there has to be some magic involved there. I don't think this episode gave me more information though to be able to make that prediction.
Yeah.
Aside from, again, my friend Lawrence, who we'll have on the pod at some point, he made his argument for this stranger being Gandalf is that it would explain Gandalf's affinity for the hobbits, right? If they were the ones that nursed him back to health or that helped him in his time of greatest need, that would make the most sense. And the whole friend thing that the stranger says to Nori as he's following them, I think that gives a lot of evidence. It would make perfect sense for it to be Gandalf just based off of that. I'm not 100% sold yet, though.
Yeah. The friend thing, it gave me flashbacks of when they got to Moria and it was like speak friend and enter. It made me think of that. But some other little things, like the fact that he's like whispered to the fireflies in the previous episode. Even the sequence of him looking at the map and then like rolling into their whole meeting and everything. Like when he gets up and he tears through whatever that drape is and stuff, to me it kind of looked like a cloak. I was like, you look like a wizard now, Harry. So I was just like, yeah, I'm pretty certain. I'm about 99.9% sure that it is a wizard at this point. The question is who? Who could it be? I do want to keep leaning towards Gandalf.
But it's just the timelines, right? Like, that's really what it is.
It's a timeline, but the timeline could work.
It could work, but Gandalf being around when the rings were first forged would feel like the movies. I don't know. There's a gap there where I didn't get that from Gandalf.
Yeah.
In the movies that we saw. So if he was around when all that was happening, I would feel like there would be so many more plot holes with the original 3 movies if that was the case.
Yeah. The thing that made me think possibly Saruman, though, is that in the first episode of the series, Galadriel says nothing ever starts off as evil. And if you know Saruman's like kind of journey, we know that he was, a good wizard, or maybe if not a good wizard, at least neutral. Like he wasn't bothering nobody for a while, and then turns over to the evil side to help Sauron. So that was ringing in my brain as like I'm watching this stranger kind of fumble around and we're trying to decipher who he might be. And I was like, well, nothing starts off evil, so maybe this could be him, and maybe he started off good and helping the hobbits and doing all these things, and then eventually.
But if that was the case, then Saruman not having an inch of affinity for the hobbits would be off.
Could it? Or maybe he just turned evil and was just like, F him.
But he acted like he didn't even know who they were. I know. He acted like he didn't even know or care who they were. Just like, oh, those half men. Like, you really think a half man is going to help you like through this stuff? And it's just like, if the stranger is Saruman, it'd be like the half man helped you. I don't understand what your problem is. So, yeah, I hear you with the like touching the darkness, But I think this right now the story lends to Gandalf more than Saruman, but timelines lead to Saruman more than Gandalf.
Yeah. Or it could just honestly be someone we just never heard of anyways.
That's it.
All right. Any final, and that brings us to the end of the episode, actually, guys, y'all. But any final thoughts about this episode 3? Any last minute things you want to throw in there?
I'm in it. Wait for the next episode. Yeah.
I'm surprised you don't have any major nitpicks. You are a nitpick queen.
I don't know enough about the lore in order to nitpick yet.
Okay.
So far what I've seen, like I said, if something tends to be true with this story that I think contradicts what we saw in the other 3 movies, I'm going to call it out.
Yeah.
But nothing has happened yet that I think directly conflicts with that. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, guys. So that's all that we have for the actual episode, but there was a trailer, obviously, for the next.
Yeah. So
Mm-hmm.
for the next episode, we think we're going to see Galadriel pleading with the Queen to free Halbrand, so he
Mm-hmm.
can unite his people to fight against Sauron. We see that Duran is talking about they're making progress in the old mind. What are they looking for? What are they trying to do is the question there. Hopefully we get back with them soon. We see that Ents are around and running. I'm hoping that we get to see some of the female Ents too, because we didn't get to see them in the original movies. And then we see an old man tell Theo that they got to be ready for what? I don't know. Who knows what they need to be ready for? Maybe orcs are chasing them. That would make the most sense, right? And then hopefully we get to see Adar's face in clear the next
Mm-hmm.
time we see Arondir and what situation he's in right now. So next episode should keep us pushing. And next episode we'll be at the halfway mark of the season already.
Oh,
This season is only 8 episodes, I
I'm
believe.
so sad.
Yeah, it's coming up quick. So hopefully we'll get to like some sort of resolution as to what the main tension is for the season. I mean, we do like what's happening in the Southlands, but maybe we'll start getting some answers beginning next episode, so we can get to a final place by the end of the season.
Yeah, I'm predicting we're gonna learn more about that sword,
Mm-hmm.
whatever Durin is looking for in the mines. Uh, we'll see what that's about. Because we know that deep down in the mines, there's a lot of things and hidden evils, but probably also hidden treasures.
Mm-hmm.
So it should be interesting to see what they actually pull out or what they're actually looking for. We also did see like a clips of Elrond in there too, so we'll see what he's been up to. But I'm excited. I'm excited to keep moving forward. I'm excited to keep diving into these mysteries and revealing all these truths, and I'm so happy. All right, guys. Well, thank you for joining us. We hope that you guys enjoyed our discussion. We will be back to continue covering the Rings of Power as well as House of the Dragon. So look out for that. Follow us on our socials at Casual Fangirls _ and on YouTube as Casual Fangirls. Like, subscribe, follow, do all of the things. And as always, I'm Nessa.
And I'm T.
And together we are the Casual Fangirls. We'll see you guys next time.
Bye.